In February 2025, police in a small Ohio town opened a murder investigation with 2 leads, no suspects, and one piece of evidence they almost missed. That piece of evidence was a wristwatch. It would take 9 months, a DNA testing problem investigators had never encountered before, and a 13-year-old's own phone to explain why it was there. On the morning of February 2nd, a man calls 911 in Fairfax, Ohio, a small village outside Cincinnati. He says he believes his sister is dead. Officers arrive at a home on Germain Avenue and find 64-year-old Sheila Tenpenny, known locally as Denise. She's in her bedroom. Nothing in the house has been stolen. There's no sign of forced entry. At this stage, investigators consider the possibility of a natural or self-inflicted death. That changes within the hour. The medical examiner finds blood and hair under Denise's fingernails. Lab results confirm none of it belongs to her. This is now a homicide investigation. Investigators turn first to the man who called 911, Denise's brother. He described details about the scene that police hadn't yet confirmed publicly, which raises immediate questions. For several days, he's the primary person of interest, but the physical evidence doesn't support it. He has no scratches, no defensive wounds, nothing connecting him to a struggle that, based on the evidence under Denise's nails, was significant. By the end of the first week, investigators rule him out and shift the case to a neighborhood canvass. Door-to-door interviews with everyone living near the scene. It's standard procedure. In most homicide cases, this kind of canvass produces nothing more than alibis and dead ends. In this case, it's what eventually solves it. Directly across from the crime scene is a house with 2 13-year-old twin brothers. During the canvass, their mother mentions that one of her sons had recently been to the emergency room, 5 stitches, after what she described as an incident with the family cat. Investigators note it and move on initially. It's the kind of detail that, on its own, means nothing. When they speak with the boy directly, the injuries are more extensive than a single scratch. Multiple wounds across his face and neck, consistent with a struggle rather than a startled house cat reacting once. Investigators also identify a discrepancy. When they later examine the cat involved, its claws are too small to account for the depth of the wounds. That inconsistency is enough to request DNA samples from both brothers. The mother agrees. The results come back a few days later. The DNA matches the evidence recovered from Denise Tenpenny's body. But it creates a problem specific to this case. The boys are identical twins, and identical twins share the same genetic markers. Standard forensic DNA testing cannot distinguish between them. This isn't a rare oversight. It's a documented, recurring limitation in forensic science, and this case is far from the first time it's come up. Standard DNA profiling works by comparing short tandem repeats, small repeating sections of genetic code that vary between individuals. For unrelated people, the odds of a match are astronomically small. For identical twins, those sections are exactly the same because both started from a single fertilized egg that split in 2. On paper, 2 different people share one genetic fingerprint. This has caused real prosecutions to stall before. In a 1987 case in Virginia, investigators eventually linked DNA evidence to a set of twin brothers, but couldn't determine which one to charge using standard testing alone. It took decades and a more advanced genetic genealogy technique before one twin was finally convicted. In a separate case in Boston, prosecutors ran into the same wall when DNA from a 2004 assault matched twin brothers equally. And as recently as the past few years, a French investigation into a series of assaults hit an identical dead end. Investigators had a DNA match to 2 suspects and no scientific way to choose between them. Newer techniques exist now. Some labs can sequence a person's full genome, looking for rare mutations that occur naturally after twins split from one shared embryo. Tiny genetic differences that build up over a lifetime and are unique to each twin. But these tests are expensive, slow, and not something most local crime labs can run as part of a standard investigation. In the Fairfax case, investigators don't have access to that kind of testing, at least not quickly enough to be useful. So they're left with a confirmed connection to the house, and no scientific way to confirm which twin it points to. Their next move is to bring both boys in for formal interviews separately, without revealing exactly what they already know. Both boys are brought to the station. Their mother, once informed her sons are being questioned without her present, requests a lawyer, but by then, both interviews are already underway. The brothers are questioned in separate rooms, using different approaches based on how each one responds. One brother is talkative from the start. He volunteers information about his twins' injuries and behavior, while also maintaining that his brother wouldn't be capable of something like this. Investigators note the contradiction without pushing it directly. He's offering information they didn't ask for, and in an interview like this, that's often more useful than information pulled out through direct questioning. The other brother is far more controlled. He answers questions carefully, sticks closely to one version of events, and shows little reaction when investigators raise specific pieces of evidence. While both interviews are happening, a separate team is executing a search warrant at the family home. This is standard parallel procedure in major cases, running interviews and a physical search at the same time, so that whatever turns up in one location can be used immediately in the other. In the bedroom belonging to the more reserved twin, they recover several items. A personal journal containing violent written content, a published book about a real-life serial killer, and a phone with a search history investigators describe as methodical. Research conducted over a period of months, covering topics that go well beyond ordinary curiosity. They also recover the wristwatch first found at the crime scene back in February. Records confirm it belongs to him. By the time these results are relayed back to the interview rooms, investigators have moved from circumstantial suspicion to physical, time-stamped evidence. By this point, investigators have DNA, a matching watch, a documented pattern of planning, and a search history that undercuts any claim this was spontaneous. What they don't have yet is an admission. During one exchange, the boy asks investigators directly whether committing a murder automatically makes someone a monster or whether it could be classified differently. The detective tells him no, that distinction doesn't apply here. He doesn't ask for a lawyer. He doesn't ask for his mother. Investigators later describe this exchange as one of the more striking moments of the case, not because of what was said, but because of how it was asked. He isn't charged that day. Building a case against a juvenile suspect in a homicide requires more than physical evidence. Prosecutors also need to establish intent and capacity in a way that holds up specifically under juvenile court standards. That process takes several more months, including additional searches and continued review of his online activity, before formal charges are filed. On November 10, 2025, he pleads guilty to aggravated murder, aggravated burglary, and strangulation. Because he was 13 at the time of the offense, while under Ohio's threshold for adult prosecution, the case is handled entirely through the juvenile system. The maximum sentence available under that system is confinement until age 21. At sentencing, members of Denise, Tenpenny's family addressed the court directly. Her sister described the past year as a process without real resolution, one where the legal system runs its full course, but the outcome doesn't change what was lost. The lead investigator on the case also addressed the court. He told the judge he'd never seen someone this young dedicate this much time to planning a killing. His stated concern wasn't only about what had already happened. It was about what happens after release, given that the juvenile system has no further legal mechanism to monitor him once his sentence ends at 21. That tension between a legal framework built for rehabilitation and a case that shows extensive premeditation is the part of this story that doesn't resolve neatly. The law isn't designed to weigh those two things against each other. It's designed to apply the same ceiling regardless of what the evidence shows.